Mister.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome to From the Depths Most Wanted! New series I'm making, basically showing off some of the craft in the game that are ridiculously hard to kill and very well designed, and hopefully giving you a few ideas on how to kill them. Now, this series is coming about because someone, sorry I can't remember your name, asked how to kill this thing with Cram cannons. This, if you haven't recognized it already, is the Bulwark, which in the factions of the game is possibly the most powerful ship that the Onyx Watch has. And it's right here. I've spawned this one in on my team so I can first of all show off what kind of makes it tick and explain the strengths and weaknesses of the thing, so even if I forget to mention something, you can hopefully have some ideas on how to kill it. Now, to start off with, it is a very characteristic ship of the Onyx Watch. It's big, it's got lots of guns, and its focus is on defense. It is quite tanky. So, I guess we'll start off with its strengths. This thing is, I was originally going to say it's very well armored, but it's more like it's cleverly armored. If you do this, you'll see that in a lot of places it has only a few layers of metal. See, right here, this is 2 layers of metal just on the sides here. It goes up to 3 right here. That's actually decent. It's not amazing levels of armor, because there's a lot of weapons which will tear straight through. You can see right here. Right here, 1, 2. And that's it. And down here, it's just 1. So this thing is most heavily armored about the waterline. So as you can see here, it's just here going this way, that is a lot of metal. Just below it, less so. And I think there was a knot of heavily armored stuff over here. So this thing it's pretty tough. It's not incredibly tough below the waterline, but above it, this is where things get a lot more heavily armored. And main point of the armor is on the turrets. Look at this. You've got 2 layers of metal, a lot of it decoration, but still, and then a layer of heavy armor right here. These are very well armored turrets, and honestly, if you want to figure out how to armor your turrets better, this is a good place to start. I didn't even know you could do this, by the way. With these little gauge increases, they can touch each other, because they only connect with a certain ways. On that curved bit, they don't connect to anything, so I learned something right there. And it's a shame that these guns are still easy to disable with explosives, because the front of them is not well armored at all. The firing pieces have to poke out here with the barrels, and so you can blow them up. I'm getting ahead of myself. So it is very well armored. It is also very well shielded. You can't really see right now. Oh my god. Okay, let's go over here. So I'm gonna turn this guy off, and then I'm going to spawn in something simple. Turning off. And then I'm gonna find one of these shields, wherever they might be, and you will see how ridiculous it is. Right here. Just gonna turn this. So as you can see, it's pretty well shielded all around. Actually, that's not as potent as I was thinking. There's no shields around here. Oh, it's got shields on the... Ah, see, you learn things like just looking at ships. These shields here are in the turret. I remember this kind of trick. You point it at... Because the turret's going to be pointing at the target anyway, it's going to turn with it.
Gunnery enabled.
Like that. Okay, enough Bulwark. Jeez, it's dead. It's dead. Okay. So right there you can see that. So these shields, I think, are pretty strong. I frequently have trouble getting through them. Let's see here. Yeah, strength 4. And on an angle as well. So that's pretty well done. So it's well armored, well shielded, and cunningly, this is going in with how it's armored cleverly rather than anything else. It has aim point distraction. So if you don't know already, cards and slots, this card you stick in AI means that your ships will supposedly aim more cleverly. They'll aim for, well, first ammo barrels. But god, this thing loves ammunition barrels. Just, it'll aim for them first, and then AI, and then I don't know what it aims for after that. Mostly because after you've taken out the ammunition and AI, things are dead. But I tend not to use aim point selection for this very reason, because it is really easy to fool. This thing is way at the bow, so there's no essential components here pretty much. There's what? This is an air... This is a great big open space with nothing important in it. And it also has a few right here. This is well below the waterline. So as you can see here, there's only 2 layers of armor, but there's a lot of water, particularly at close range. A lot of shells firing from about entering the water over here will just sink before they get over here. And it's got more over here. Cunning distribution of armor. This is what I like about Onyx Watch vessels. A lot of them use this trick. It's just small pockets of armor throughout the whole thing, which means it's actually kind of hard to, well, cripple it by aiming for the ammunition, because you get lots of little explosions, just one by one in order, but you do not get, like, one big one, as what tends to be the case with, like, other ships, like mine, for instance. And here, all the way at the back, again, not super heavily armored, because it doesn't need to be, except on this angle right here. Jeez, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of metal right there, so good luck shooting at this. And this is a broadsider as well, so facing this thing, like, from the sides is not a good idea. It can bring most of its guns to bear, and, well, your ships will be shooting below the waterline, and at the bow and at the stern of the thing, and it's not a good time. And spaced armor, that's the thing. Clever armor placement has got these big air pockets all the way through it, which means that heat shells, shaped charges, which you find in advanced cannons, tend not to work very well, because they'll go straight through this, and then, well, the fragments will just spray out here and not really accomplish anything much. So heat is not really an option when dealing with this thing, especially when you consider that, well, heat works best with aim point selection, which is the problem. So you need a lot of heat in order to kill this thing in any kind of reasonable time. So yeah, there's that. And as of one of the last updates, this thing has a LAM system, at which point I started crying, because if you've been keeping up with my other videos, I hate these things. I've yet to wrap my head around them, which is partially why, and also because I love using cram cannons and missiles, and these things make me very sad. But, as I explained in my Cram survival guide video thing, there are ways to counter this, so we'll get back to that in a bit, but this actually has a very good LAM system, and I will demonstrate that once I turn the shields back to a better color. So, and where are we? We're here. We're gonna spawn in a bunch of stuff. Dusters are always great for this kind of thing. 4, 5. So, really good LAM system. As soon as you see the missiles fire again, so... Okay, that was less ideal. That was actually not a good demonstration at all. I apologize. I will spawn something with decent missiles in. I will in fact spawn in one of my designs, which I think I've shown off before. Spawn in the skink. This thing has good missiles. So you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah blah blah. Ignore the torpedoes for now. So, yep, pop, pop. So about 200 meters away, this thing will pop. So, decent barrage right there. And it popped him. And that was from the front, mind you. From the sides, these things work a lot better because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is there more in the back? Nope, that's just it. All 6 of these things start spraying, and it actually pops missiles and cram shells quite effectively. So it's good. It's a good LAM system. So, well armored, well defended. What of the offense? Well, you might have noticed the gigantic F-off guns on the front here, and these are 2,000mm cannons. It has actually quite a few of these. And I remember looking over this previously and counting how many guns it has, and according to my crib notes here, it has 3 200mm flat cannons. Yep, 200mm. Like, this thing has 2 meter long autoloaders and magazines inside them, so it's actually quite a big shell. It has 3 of them. Good aircraft defense, well, decent. It has 9 2,000mm guns in 3 turrets. 2 on the front, 1 on the back. It has 4 1,320mm high explosive cannons. That's these things right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And... where are they exactly? I think it's these smaller ones on the back, actually. Like, what is this? What is this? What is this? That's 1320, that's 1320. Yeah, these are the 1320 ones. And it has 6 1,406mm ones. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and these cram cannons are a mixture of penetration depth guns and high explosive guns. And most... I believe that this one in the front is... what is this? Okay, this one has hardening and high explosive. This one also has hardening. This one also has hardening. So basically the 2,000mm guns are pen depth, for the most part. And the smaller ones are high explosive, which is kind of the smart way to use cram cannons, because smaller ones you want more boom boom, and bigger ones you want to make sure that explosion is in the right place. So you want it to punch through an enemy ship and blow it up from the inside out. And these guns are formidable. Like, against, I've tested the Bulwark against a number of those ships. Like, armored targets are a joke when fighting against this thing. You need these things I hate. You need laser missile defense, and you need good shields. I'm getting ahead of myself again. So, this is the problem with crib notes. You get ahead of yourself. That looks funny. Long, short, long. Anyway, so what are the weaknesses of this thing? Well, for a start, like most Onyx Watch vessels, this thing is slow as molasses. That's the button. So you see right there, its maximum speed is absolutely glacial. This thing is moving at, I think it's gonna top out at, what is this thing's maximum speed? About 6 meters per second. Yep, there it goes. Ooh, no, back down. It was 6.10, now it's 6. So this thing is so slow. Like, I prefer to build fast ships, so I would go crazy. I'd be like jumping out here and going, looking at how fast the water's going by and saying, are we there yet? How fast do we go? Okay, 6 meters per second. So, very, very slow, which is partially why the reason for the shields and the armor and the lambs is because this thing can't dodge anything. I say that, it actually dodges my ship's cram cannons quite a lot. But that's because my ships work from long range, blah blah blah. Okay, so it is very slow, and if you pop a look at the innards of this thing, you will notice a very glaring thing missing from its array of defenses, and that is smoke. This thing has no smoke defenses. And in case you weren't aware, smoke is the main counter to the lasers in this game, because lasers are very, very powerful, and if you are not prepared for them, you will die horribly and quickly. So, smokes actually make things a lot easier. Anything without smoke gets shredded by lasers. Anything with smoke does a lot better. Like, my ships have done so much better since I actually bothered to put smoke on all of them, and it just works a lot better. I just remembered, I don't have smoke on all of them. Ah! So anyway, no smoke, vulnerable to lasers. More on that later. And another weakness of this craft is that you will notice that it has lots of compartments. And this is kind of a winning feature of Onyx Watch vessels. Lots of compartments, it's hard to sink. That is mostly hard to sink. See, that's one of the things I like about Onyx Watch vessels, is because despite the fact that they use so much metal, and I guess it's partially why they use light alloy for deck armor and stuff like that, is that they're hard to sink. They have so many compartments and little air pockets inside them that you can bust almost half of them and the thing will stay floating. Which means the thing can keep fighting and keep shooting at you, which is very good ship design. The Bulwark is kind of like that, except not really, because, well, look. You have a bunch of heavy armor on all the main turrets, and you also have heavy armor all scattered throughout the ship. So, where is it? It's mostly around the flak guns. So here you have a lot of heavy armor, and I believe around main ammunition stores, wherever on Earth they are. So here's more heavy armor. It's just that I don't know why there's just a pillar of it right there. Probably just I don't even know. What is that doing there? I don't know. Anyway, so you've got heavy armor scattered throughout the ship, and I believe, yep, there's some more there. It's around a turret. And, yeah, here we go. There's a lot of heavy armor around the AI, and yes, here's main ammunition storage. There's some more ammunition around here. Ammunition, heavy armor, same thing. So this thing is, to put it simply, this thing is heavy. It is so heavy, in fact, that one of the things I noticed... Ooh, bit of scuff marks there. One of the things I noticed with this new improved version is that it has a PID controller. That's what these things are for. They're keeping it stable in the water, and I'm guessing they also help with keeping this thing afloat, because once this thing, the Bulwark, has enough compartments ruptured, it does tend to dip below the waterline, and it's noticeable compared to other Onyx Watch craft. This thing will sink quite quickly, compared to a lot of the other craft in the Onyx Watch faction. This thing will start dipping below the water when it's at, well, 80% health, which is not good, because that's when you get a despawn by sinking. And also, like, when the engines are down as well, these PID-controlled propellers stop working, and that also is a weakness. And more on the engines being vulnerable later. Like, hint, hint, it involves the underside of this thing. So, it's slow, it's heavy, no smoke, and it's mainly armed with cram cannons, and I hate to say it because I love cram cannons, this is a bit of a weakness because crams are slow and expensive, and as I've said before, they're not good against very fast targets, and unless you're specifically prepared for it, they're not very good against things with good laser munition defense. It's just, it doesn't work. They get blown out of the sky. And someone in the comments told me that really big shells have so much health it doesn't make much of it they can get through. In my experience, that doesn't really work because they get detected from a very great distance. So, as you can see, just in the what do you call it? In the information for this gun, the anti-munition defenses can detect the shell of this gun from over 1 kilometer away, 1,000 meters. So that's plenty of time for the shell to get blown up before it reaches its target. That's a bit of a problem. And this isn't a lot better, much small. About 600 meters away, it can get detected and blown up, which is quite irritating, actually. So, Cram cannons, it's not good against fast targets, not good against LAMs, equipped targets, it's not good against submarines. Like, the Onyx Watch in general is very vulnerable to submarines. And more on that later, because it's going to be how you kill this thing. And this is a big weakness. I don't know whether this is deliberate for balance purposes, or if it is just an oversight, because with Cram cannons, you want... The trick is in the fuses, I've said this before. You really need to know what kind of gun you're going for, and you need to know what kind of fuse you want. So, and this is exactly my point. I think out of the 3 main turrets, only one of them has inertial fuses on it. So this one has time from launch and penetration depth, but it does not have inertial fuses. And honestly, it would not make much of a difference for this gun. Really big guns, like 3% of the shell is taken up by fuses. If I just modify this quickly, where is your fuse? Where's your fuse? There's your fuse. If I do this, and now it is 4% of the shell. That's nothing. With a big Cram shell, you can put a lot of fuses on it. It's absolutely fine. And the Bulwark doesn't usually have them, which means that it doesn't do as well against shielded craft as you might think. So, let's see, 3%, 3%, 3%, only 2 fuses. And all of them are timed, so, and that's 3%, 3%, 3%. And that is 3%, 4%, that's the one I messed with, that's 3%. And all the smaller turrets all have inertial fuses as far as I'm aware. So, let's see. Yes, you sir. Where's your fuse? There's your fuse. It has got inertial fuses. And that's important because it means that if it, like, bounces off armor or a shield, it explodes. And these main guns don't do that. Like, I'm crappy at using shields, but even the shields on my craft can occasionally just cause one of these things to bounce off into the stratosphere, which is not good because this is a very big, slow-firing shell. You do not want this thing to miss its target. You need to make every shot count. And where is the friggin' thing? Yeah, each shell uses 200 ammunition. You do not want that thing to miss. So a bit of an oversight not to use every fuse possible, really. And yeah, that's basically it for the weaknesses. So now we get onto how to kill it. Now, you had a little preview just earlier with how to kill this thing, and the first thing is, I'm going to go through it weapon type by weapon type, and the first one is missiles, and you can swarm this thing with missiles, but I tend to find that surface missiles don't do much against this because, well, look at it. The deck armor is actually quite thick. Looks like, what is it? It is a layer of alloy and a layer of metal. Frag missiles generally just bounce off that, particularly off the missile nerves. The turrets are easily well armored enough to deal with missiles. So you've got 2 layers of metal there. You have metal beams here. You have these gorgon creases, which are actually pretty tough. They're almost as tough as metal. And you have that heavy armor. So surface missiles combined, well, went up against the armor of this thing and this friggin' LAM system right here. That is not a good show, actually. So, torpedoes are your best friend here. So I'm going to spawn in a submarine that I built, and I will demonstrate to you how these things work. Where the hell is it? There it is. Here it is. This is not a very good submarine, by the way. It's like just this. Dun dun dun. And this is showcasing the vehicle type that is like particularly effective against the Bulwark, because as you can see, it's gonna have a miserable time trying to hit this thing because of its cram cannons and because of well, its advanced cannons and cram cannons can't deal with it. Ah, interesting. I was going to say that because it doesn't have passive sonar, it's not good at dealing with torpedoes. It looks like it actually can. Well, scratch that. Where's your sonar, dude? I think that's a bug. It shouldn't be able to detect torpedoes if it doesn't have passive sonar on it. That's annoying. But in any case, the statement still stands. Once you get a whole bunch of torpedoes beneath the hull, remember how thin the hull is? Okay, stop, you're loud. You are so loud. So remember when I said how thin the hull is, like deep below the waterline? And remember when I said how this thing is vulnerable to sinking once enough compartments are ruptured? That's where these things come in, assuming you can actually get through that friggin' LAM system. I'm annoyed by that, like, I can't... How the hell does it spot them? Like, munition warners aren't meant to work below water. I really think that's a bug. I do not see how it can detect them like that. Irritating, but in any case, torpedoes do work, can confirm. Damn it, that's loud. You just have to use lots of them. So it's the usual story of just spam, spam, spam. And actually, stop repairing. And I can't show you. Damn it, I can't show you off the thing because the friggin'. Stop it, please. Oh my god. This is the problem with doing videos live, you go off script. But anyway, so torpedoes, good when the game is actually behaving itself and not spotting them like out of nowhere. Oh, there it is, you cunning little bastard. Okay, torpedoes might not work as well as expected. Once these are blown up, it should be a lot better. But in any case, like, lots of torpedoes tend to cause this thing to slow down and sink quite quickly. And the important thing is that torpedoes coming from beneath... Look at this. There is exactly... Hold on. You will notice that there is about 2 layers of metal between the engines and the ocean. That's not a lot. A big torpedo will blow straight through that and render this thing without engine power, which means its shields will get turned off and its LAM system will get turned off. So that's a critical weakness of this ship right here. Hit it from beneath. Like, that's a lot of ships have that weakness. Mine have that weakness, for crying out loud, but this one in particular, gut it in its belly. And that's from before, isn't it? Yes, it is. So, if you're using missiles, use torpedoes and lots of them. Now on to the... What the hell happened here? That must have been from when the dusters did something. Or maybe it shot itself, I don't know. Anyway, so now on to the actual, like, the request that was made. How do you kill this thing with cram cannons? Well, I've basically covered it before. You shut down the LAM system, this thing is as vulnerable as anything else to cram cannons. And I really understand why now, because it has big holes in its shields. And so I am going to jump ship before I spawn in what happens next. Oh my god, I'm stuck. Ugh. Abandon ship. Then we are going to go over here, and we are going to spawn in, like... way number one to deal with a Bulwark, and that is the usual from the depth strategy of spam. Spam, spam, lovely spam. I'm going to spawn in 2 skillers, and we'll show you just like if you just use a lot of medium gauge crams, high explosive crams, the LAM system on the Bulwark can't keep up with them. It's good, but it's not that good. And the skillers are also going to demonstrate here another thing with fighting the Bulwark is that you'll notice that I've spawned them about 1.5 kilometers away. This is because you do not want to be close to that thing. Like, this is my main strategy in the game, honestly, is that a lot of ships are designed for fighting up close, and that's where, like, having aim point distractions well below the waterline works, because it means that the enemy's guns is pointing down into the water. It does not work so well at long range, where the shells, particularly with cram cannons, are going to arc onto the deck. And as we see here, layer of alloy, layer of metal, the deck armor is not very strong, as tends to be the case with such ships. Is that off? Yes, it is. Nope, it wasn't. And so we do... Sorry, turned off my recording, that was very stupid. So you see here, one of the skillers is absolutely getting shredded, but as you can probably tell, an awful lot of those shells are going to get through, and they are going to do exactly what they are designed to do, which is, will you stop burning my face? Okay, you are not being cooperative. God damn it. Oof. See, a constant rain of stuff like that. See, the Bulwark is already like 3% health down, and 2 skillers is nowhere near the cost of that. A skiller is around, let's show you, it's around 91,000. Well, more like, yeah, roughly 91,000 resource. A Bulwark is almost 400,000. You could get almost 4 skiller for one of these. And currently, it's an even fight. So see, this is what I was talking about before. Like, heavily armored turrets are not actually that good an idea because there's a nice little, well, weak point right through the firing piece into the innards of the thing. So you're actually better off making turrets small and harder to hit rather than big and heavily armored, because high explosive rounds, like what the skillers are armed with, have a field day with big turrets, because they're so easy to land shots on, and explosions tend to like warp and morph inside the gun through any available hole. So that is a weakness right there. There's one more volley, and you can see just guns are being popped left and right. And another critical thing that the skillers are showing off is that they do not have aim point selection, so they are not aiming for these little distraction points here. That's important. That's why I don't usually use it. It's too easy to fool. Let's give the Bulwark a break right now. So there is one way to use cram cannons to kill this thing. Arguably my favorite method. And you can see here, the heavy armor is intact. The guns are not. So that's one thing to remember when using... Well, this is why explosives are just very good in this game, because they creep and seep through any kind of weak point. So what happens is, and this... I learned this from watching, like, From the Depths tournaments a lot. Explosion, when heavy armor is used, it's absolutely fine. What it's protecting tends to get destroyed if there's even a tiny little hole right here. So a few more shots in here, and the insides of the gun would be at serious risk. And you see here, trim barrel, and just... yeah. And another thing to remember is that the Bulwark actually likes to orbit at long range. I'll show you. Where is the AI? Here is the AI. And this thing will enter broadside at almost 2,000 meters, so if you want this thing chase you and not turn broadside, you need long-range runaway kind of ships, which thankfully I have and I love using. So that's one way to deal with it, and I will show you the other way as soon as this guy is fully repaired. Always fun to see this kind of thing. I really do like this ship. It is like... It just looks cool, and it's just something really, really satisfying about a ship that is armed with big guns and is not ashamed of it kind of thing. Dumpty-dumpty-doo. Gun barrels always take a really long time to repair. Is that what I think it is? Is that what I think it is? Ah, it's an elevation barrel. Never mind, not what I thought it was. So that is one way to deal with a Bulwark. And the other way is to use smoke. So I've, talked about using smoke guns a fair bit in my other videos. That was kind of the main point of my Cram Cannon Survival Guide. And I have, happy to say, I've updated them. They're now timed fuse, which means they're almost guaranteed to get smoke on target. And they have 180-degree fragments in them. So they kind of act like flak, a little bit of extra damage. And you'll see this in the Naga right here. And as you can probably tell very quickly, let's get over there. I am not a tremendous fan of how much smoke these guns make. It makes it hard to see anything. So here. So as you can see, whenever the lasers are trying to poke through smoke, it's not working at all, which means that brutal volley of cram shells is getting straight through and doing pretty much what the Skilla was doing, only better. And this is what I was talking about with torpedoes. So that was one torpedo volley, and okay, never mind. I don't think it was the torpedo which did that. So as you can see, the Bulwark is not having a good time at all. It's losing guns really fast, and as you can see right here, it's starting to get holes. So there's one breach. I think that's the only one, actually. What the hell happened? Whoa! Whole gun blown off. Woohoo! This is why you don't do surface turrets, people. Put the squishy bits inside the hull. So there, missing there. And sooner or later, it is going to get through more than one compartment, and this thing is going to tip on the border. You can already see it happen. Right here, where did... This thing is already starting to sink at the front. So, that's, yeah, there's weakness shown right there. One more volley just because I like it. You can see that the Bulwark is not having a good time, not having a good time at all. So, actually, crams are one of the better ways to deal with the Bulwark, provided you A, use lots of them, and B, use smoke. So as you see, that smoke is doing a wonder. That was about 4 shells, one of them got through, and the thing about Cram Cannon shots is that you don't need many of them to get through in order to do some serious damage. So, in fact, I am going to destroy you because it's... I'm gonna spawn another one because I can. Oh, actually, you know what? I should show this thing off in its actual fleet colors. So there she is, the big broody beast. Now, lasers and particle cannons, I arguably don't even need to demonstrate because, as I mentioned before, this thing has no smoke, it has no laser absorption shields. With lasers, you can go nuts. Like, if you have a big enough laser, it'll tear straight through the armor below the waterline, and it will pop these little things like popcorn, and then it will just tear through the hull and just eventually get through everything else. Provided you can keep your ship alive long enough to do that. But if you have a LAM system on, or if it's a faster vessel, like, if you want ideas for that, look at the lightning hoods. Their kind of stuff is excellent inspiration for that kind of thing. So, lasers, not going to bother demonstrating. Particle cannons, if you know how to build a particle cannon, you can kill a Bulwark. Because piercing shots will rupture multiple compartments and cause it to sink. Impact will blow guns off and like blow big chunks in the hull. And I haven't mentioned how the Bulwark isn't as vulnerable to EMP as other Onyx Watch vessels are, but the amount of heavy armor it uses means that EMP still works very well against it, particularly around the ammunition, particularly around these secondary flak guns right here. Just EMP will just chip away at that, doing full damage, and make it a lot easier to get through there. So, like lasers and particle cannons go nuts. Advanced cannons require slightly more finesse, and I have discovered a winning combination for taking on not only the Bulwark, but other kinds of big, scary, armored, like, lambs using shielded things, because I've got bad news for you, like, the later game is full of things like that. So I'm going to load it in right now. I just made this earlier. It is a little fortress, because I haven't made a ship yet with this kind of thing. So, what the hell was I doing? Well, this is in enemy colors by accident, but honestly, turning off. That should do the trick. So, these shells, I'm about to demonstrate to you now, it's the usual smoke guns, and there's a reason for... What the hell? No, let me see. Oh my god, I never realized there's a little... I don't know what that is. Damn it. There's a little man on the shells. I never realized that before. That is so cool. I love it. In any case, so, smoke rounds, and that is to ensure that these things get through. These are disruption warheads, and to my amazement, it actually works pretty well. Like, disruption warheads, if you don't know, it kind of is like a little bit like a shaped charge or a squash head, in that you have this funky warhead right here, and it uses EMP warheads to essentially damage shields for free. When this hits a shield, it damages the shield, and like if you throw enough of these at a target, it will tear through the shields and then leave the target vulnerable, which is very nice. And hopefully you should see this right here. And the smoke is just to ensure that the lambs get shot. The smoke is, as usual, shutting down the lambs, and the disruption warheads are going to pop the shields. As you can see, we've gotten through. We have gotten through. Yes, we have. Bulwark. Oh my god, why is it lighting? Turn you off for a second. So that's like, what, just a few seconds? This thing's already down 2% health, it's lost a gun, and it is getting dangerously close to this what the hell happened here? What? How did this even happen? Must have... Wow, see, this is... Whoa. This is why you don't build big turrets above deck. That happens. So in any case, so this is not the only way you can use advanced cannons to deal with a Bulwark or anything. It's just, this is quite elegant and simple. Yep, Bulwark is in trouble. I'm getting distracted by the explosions, aren't I? Yes, I am. So, in order to show off what exactly these guns are using. So these are not incredibly well put together turrets, they're more just to test shell types. But I will show you what this is. So, this is the shell I'm using in order to take down the Bulwark. It is a 400mm disruptor conduit in the front, EMP warhead, 2 HE warheads, initial fuse, the rest is gunpowder casing. And this kind of, like, I am definitely not the best at using APS, but this, as you would see, gets through shields quite nicely. It only takes a few volleys to kill the shield, and then what's immediately behind it gets blown to pieces. Absolutely lovely. And I was actually planning on making a 200mm version of this, and just, you know, embracing the spam, because I usually hate, like, really rapid-fire advanced cannons. I think they're kind of cheesy and overpowered. But, you know what? When in Rome, do as the Romans do and use ridiculous amounts of high-caliber shells. So, let's say farewell to the Bulwark right here, because, honestly, the Bulwark is beautiful. I love it. So, here we go. The Bulwark. Look at her. Ain't she a beauty? And I'm actually kind of happy how she looks in my fleet colors as well. So anyway, that is From the Depths Most Wanted, the Bulwark. Hopefully that gives you a few ideas on how to deal with this thing in the campaign for yourself. And, like, I encourage you to, like, just open the designer and have a poke around in this thing, because I've gotten a few ideas just from looking at it. Like pretty much every campaign vehicle, this is very well put together, very aesthetically pleasing. It's just, I know, it's got flaws like anything else, but there's cunning tricks in here, and I like that. So, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you next time in From the Depths Most Wanted. Farewell!